25. That's how many times Pakistan has gone to the International Monetary Fund for a bailout. Not once, not 5 times, 25 times since 1958. That's not a country navigating through rough patches. That is a country that has institutionalized financial collapse as a way of life. Pakistan's tax to GDP ratio sits at 9%. India collects 18%. Bangladesh also collects more. Even sub-Saharan African nations with a fraction of Pakistan's resources outperform it on this metric. You cannot run a functioning state on 9%. You cannot build roads, educate children, or maintain hospitals on 9%. And then there is this. Over 50% of Pakistan's entire federal revenue goes directly to debt servicing. Not schools, not hospitals, not the tens of millions living below the poverty line. Just paying back old loans with new loans. A financial snake that has been eating its own tail for 6 decades. These are not anomalies caused by bad luck or a rough patch. These numbers are the system working exactly as it was designed to, by the people it was designed to serve. There is a popular saying that countries have army, but in Pakistan's case, it's the army which has a country. The Pakistani military does not merely control defense policy. It controls foreign policy, judicial outcomes, media narrative, and enormous swath of the economy. The Fauji Foundation, one of the several military-run conglomerates, operates cement plants, fertilizer factories, cereal brands, and financial services. The Army Welfare Trust controls premium real estate. Defense housing authorities have carved up the most valuable land in Karachi, Lahore, and Islamabad. None of this corporate empire pays meaningful taxes, and none of it is publicly audited. Pakistan's official defense budget stands at roughly $6.1 billion, but that figure excludes military pension, paramilitary forces, off-budget revenues from its business empire, and debt from defense-related projects. Real estimates place military's total economic footprint at 25 to 40% of the formal economy. One institution, unelected, unaccountable, controlling nearly half of the economy. Every civilian leader who challenged this arrangement was removed. Bhutto was hanged, Nawaz Sharif was ousted twice and exiled, Imran Khan was imprisoned. The message, consistent across 7 decades, is simple. The army decides, and what the army has decided, above all else, is that it will never be reformed, reduced, or held to account. That single fact explains more about Pakistan's failure than any other. Development requires institutions that save the public. Pakistan's most powerful institutions serves itself. Pakistan has 260 million people, roughly 5 million file income tax return. That is less than 2% of the population. And even within that 2%, it is largely salaried workers whose taxes are deducted automatically because they have no choice. The people who actually own Pakistan, the feudal lords, the large traders, the industrialists, the military-linked businesses, pay almost nothing. Agriculture contributes roughly 23% of Pakistan's GDP. And guess what? Agriculture tax is essentially zero, because the people who own agricultural land also control provisional assemblies where agricultural income tax is levied. They have simply voted themselves out of the tax net. This is not corruption in the conventional sense. This is the structured democratic looting of the state by its own ruling class. When the IMF arrives, as it does every few years, it demands fiscal consolidation. Pakistan's government comply by raising electricity prices and squeezing the salaried class. The feudal lords sit in their farmhouses, watch the poor absorb the pain, and wait for crisis to pass. Then they do it again, every single time. Pakistan has an installed electricity generation capacity of around 45,000 megawatts. Peak demand is approximately 28,000 megawatts. On paper, Pakistan should have surplus power. Instead, it has load shedding of 8 to 14 hours a day in large parts of the country, and an energy sector circular debt that has crossed 2.5 trillion rupees. So how is this possible? Well, under agreements signed with independent power producers, many under China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, Pakistan agreed to pay capacity charges. That means Pakistan pays these power plants whether they generate electricity or not, whether the grid uses their power or not, whether consumers can afford the tariff or not. The plant gets paid simply for existing. Now, these agreements, many signed under opaque conditions with commissions flowing to well-connected middle agencies, have created a system where Pakistan spends billions of dollars annually paying for electricity it cannot distribute, cannot afford to price competitively, and cannot escape through contract renegotiation. Industries shut down and face uncompetitiveness, investors walk away, and Pakistan, sitting at 30-degree north latitude with some of the highest solar irradiation in the world, remains trapped in a coal and furnace oil dependency it signed itself into. By 2050, Pakistan's population is projected to reach between 330 to 380 million people, making it the third or fourth most populous country on earth. That growth is happening against a backdrop of collapsing public services, a shrinking formal economy, and an education system that is failing at an industrial scale. Pakistan's fertility rate is 3.1 children per woman. India's is 2.0. Bangladesh's also is at 2.0. Female literacy rate in Pakistan stands at roughly 49%. Female labor force participation is around 20%, one of the lowest figures anywhere on the planet. These numbers are connected. Uneducated, economically dependent women in conservative social structures have more children. More children per family means less investment per child. Less investment per child means a less educated next generation. The cycle tightens with every passing decade. Pakistan's youth bulge, tens of millions of young people between 15 and 29, should be an economic asset. In a country with functioning institutions, it would be, but in Pakistan, it's a pressure cooker. There are not enough jobs. The education system produces graduates that formal economy cannot use, and tens of millions of young men, undereducated, underemployed, economically humiliated, exist in a country already saturated with extremist ideology and ethnic grievance. For decades, Pakistan's military used militant groups as instrument of foreign policy against India and Afghanistan, while maintaining plausible deniability. The strategy had a logic, but it also had consequences that the architects either did not foresee or did not care about. The groups Pakistan cultivated did not remain convenient tools. They developed their own agendas, their own financing, their own territorial ambitions. The Pakistani Taliban emerged as an insurgency against the Pakistan state itself, killing tens of thousands of Pakistani civilians and soldiers. Pakistan spent 2 decades fighting a war it had partly created on its own soil. Its own government estimated the total cost at over $150 billion. Then came the international reckoning. In 2018, the Financial Action Task Force placed Pakistan on its grey list for failures in countering terrorist financing. For 4 years, Pakistani transactions faced enhanced international scrutiny. Banks grew reluctant, trade finance dried up, correspondent banking relationships frayed. Pakistan was removed in 2022, but the reputational damage, the capital flight, and the lost investment of those years do not simply vanish because a watchdog changes a designation. The fundamental military calculation has not changed. The infrastructure remains. The world can see it. Diplomatic protocol prevents most governments from saying so directly, but investors and international capital have no such constraints, and they act accordingly. When the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor was announced in 2015, Pakistani officials called it a game changer. $62 billion in Chinese investment, ports, roads, railways, power plants, and the transformation of Pakistan into a regional economic hub. However, the reality was dark. The vast majority of CPEC investments came as loans, not grants, at interest rates between 2 and 6%, not the concessional development finance implied in the announcements. Many contracts were signed under strict confidentiality clauses, hidden from Pakistan's parliament and its people. The power plants built under CPEC are direct contributor to capacity payment crisis. Chinese firms imported their own labor for construction. Profits were repatriated to China. The promised industrial zones are largely empty. The Gwadar port, the corridor's centerpiece, remains underdeveloped, surrounded by local protests and military crackdowns. Pakistan cannot renegotiate, cannot push back, and cannot walk away. It needs Chinese goodwill at the IMF. It needs Chinese rollover on bilateral loans. It has no alternative patron of comparable scale. CPEC was sold as salvation. However, it delivered debt, worsened the energy crisis, and locked Pakistan into a dependency it cannot exit. In 1971, Bangladesh was carved from the eastern wing of Pakistan, the poorer, less industrialized half, dismissed internationally as a basket case. Pakistan had the military establishment, the industry, the international relationships. Pakistan was supposed to be the success story. But today, Bangladesh's GDP per capita exceeds Pakistan's. It exports $55 billion, which is nearly Pakistan's double. Its fertility rate is at near replacement level. Its female workforce participation has transformed the economy. It has not experienced a military coup since 1990s. Bangladesh is not a wealthy country, but it followed a better path. Macroeconomic discipline, export-led growth, female empowerment, and incremental institutional improvement. The results are measurable and real. Pakistan watched its poorer sibling overtake it and did not change course. Pakistan will not collapse dramatically. There will be a 26th IMF program. The rupee will stabilize temporarily, which it has since 2023. A minister will announce a reform package. A foreign government will extend a credit line. Life will continue, but the direction is not towards recovery. It is towards permanent managed dysfunction, endless debt cycles, accelerating brain drain, declining public services, and slow deindustrialization, while a protected elite continues extracting from a population that has no mechanism to stop them. Over 800,000 Pakistanis immigrated in 2023 alone. Doctors, engineers, entrepreneurs. The people most capable of building something different are the ones most capable of leaving, and they are leaving. The children entering school today are entering one of the worst performing education systems in the world. The young men entering the job market today are entering an economy which is structurally incapable of absorbing them. Pakistan had every ingredient to be something different. A large population, a strategic location, fertile land, a bit of mineral resources, and a talented diaspora. But what it never built and shows no sign of building are institutions willing to serve the many instead of the few. And until that changes, the next crisis is already being borrowed. If you found this analysis insightful, then don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. I'll see you in the next one. Peace out.